Under the blinding lights of the Manhattan Federal Court on May 24, 2025, America held its breath as Sean Diddy Combs, the once untouchable titan of the entertainment world, suddenly collapsed from a heart attack in the middle of a high-stakes trial. But the real shock wasn't just his dramatic medical emergency, it was the reason behind it, the explosive courtroom testimony of his own son, Christian King Combs. The very son he had mentored and supported throughout his entire career had now become a key witness threatening to dismantle the empire Diddy built. This trial, which began on May 12, wasn't just another celebrity court drama, it was quickly dubbed the trial of the century in American entertainment. Diddy stood accused of 5 serious federal crimes, including charges under the powerful RICO Act, typically reserved for taking down organized crime syndicates. Even more disturbing were allegations of enticing and transporting individuals across state lines for illicit purposes. As the world watches the fall of a hip-hop mogul who once ruled over billions in brand value and shaped generations of musical talent, one haunting question echoes in everyone's mind. What did Christian Combs reveal that brought his father to his knees in front of the world? From the shadows of glitz and glamour to the cold, unforgiving spotlight of justice, the Diddy scandal has erupted into one of the most jaw-dropping sagas in modern entertainment history. According to explosive court documents, between 2004 and 2024, Sean Diddy Combs allegedly masterminded a secretive, hierarchical network cloaked beneath high society parties, referred to in hushed tones as freak-offs. These weren't just celebrity get-togethers, they were dark, ritualistic events drenched in drugs, coercion, and alleged exploitation, often held at his opulent properties in LA, New York, and aboard private yachts. Victims testified that they were plied with tainted drinks, stripped of control, and pushed into disturbing sexual scenarios, some filmed, some threatened, at the whim of powerful guests, and in some cases, Diddy himself. Key witness Cassie Ventura, Diddy's longtime partner, described years of psychological torment and being forced into explicit acts with strangers under his command. Another witness, Daniel Phillips, revealed he was paid to engage sexually with Cassie at one such party, while Diddy watched and directed. These testimonies, prosecutors argue, point not to isolated misconduct but a systematic machine of manipulation and abuse. By the opening of the trial, more than 63 civil lawsuits had piled up against Diddy, stretching back to 1991, a timeline that paints decades of alleged depravity behind a billion-dollar empire. The turning point came in March 2024, when simultaneous FBI raids uncovered over 100 electronic devices, unregistered weapons, synthetic drugs, and over 1,000 bottles of lubricant, chilling evidence of industrial-scale exploitation. Even Diddy's companies, Bad Boy Records, Revolt TV, and more, are now under federal scrutiny, suspected of acting as polished fronts for deeply illegal operations. But the shockwave that truly shattered the courtroom wasn't forensic, it was emotional. Christian King Combs, Diddy's own son and heir, broke the family's code of silence. His testimony, laced with pain and betrayal, was so impactful that it allegedly triggered Diddy's dramatic courtroom heart attack. The once proud father collapsed, and from that moment, a deeper truth began to emerge. Was the very heart of the Combs dynasty rotten from within? Despite a public image of family unity, Diddy's children sitting stone-faced in court, reality told a different story. Just hours after harrowing court sessions, Christian was seen partying in LA, arms around his girlfriend, flashing smiles under neon lights. Justin and Quincy weren't far behind, spotted at social events with Diddy's partner, Young Miami, as their father faced the possibility of dying in prison. The question echoes louder than ever: is this the unraveling of a powerful legacy, or just the beginning of uncovering what's been hidden for decades? In a saga that feels more like a Shakespearean tragedy than a courtroom drama, the downfall of Sean Diddy Combs has taken a darker, more personal turn, one that no media strategist could have scripted. As federal prosecutors peeled back layers of a decades-long empire built on power, fame, and alleged exploitation, the spotlight has turned to a far more disturbing subplot: the emotional collapse of the Combs family from within. Amid serious charges involving coercion, abuse, and grotesque exploitation under the guise of elite parties known as freak-offs, public eyes began to shift from the accused mogul to his own children, especially Christian King Combs. While Diddy's empire was crumbling in court, Christian was seen toasting champagne in neon-lit clubs, his social media drenched in luxury and detachment. His controversial statement, "They ain't talking about nothing in court," landed like a bombshell, stunning both the public and legal observers alike. Was this apathy? A denial of justice? Or the cold strategy of someone raised in an empire where image was everything and accountability was optional? What began as a united front, Diddy's children sitting stone-faced in court, soon unraveled under scrutiny. Christian, once crowned the heir to the bad boy legacy, had crossed an invisible line, not by refuting his father's guilt, but by emotionally disengaging from the gravity of the accusations. Witnesses like Cassie Ventura and Daniel Phillips had laid bare horrifying accounts of physical abuse, psychological torment, and forced sexual encounters, yet Diddy's children remained eerily composed, raising questions no PR team could silence. How much did they know? How long had they looked away? Could a family so deeply embedded in the daily life of a mogul so controlling truly be ignorant? Analysts likened the family to the Roys from Succession, a polished facade masking ruthless internal fractures. What once appeared as loyalty now looked like damage control. Even behind closed doors, tensions were rising. Sources revealed Christian had clashed with his father long before the trial, disagreeing with how Diddy managed public backlash and suggesting it was time to stop hiding the truth. But instead of supporting victims or expressing remorse, Christian chose indifference, perhaps not out of malice, but as a strategic exit from an empire built on deception. The turning point came on May 17, 2025. As reporters swarmed outside the courthouse, one asked Christian if his father would be vindicated. Without hesitation, he smiled and replied, "Yes, sir, they ain't talking about nothing in court." Hours later, Diddy collapsed from a heart attack in front of the judge, the courtroom frozen in shock. Whether coincidence or causality, one thing was undeniable: the betrayal had hit its deepest nerve. The very son who mirrored Diddy in charm and ambition had become the final symbol of his unraveling, a king in waiting who watched his father's empire burn and chose not to put out the flames, but to walk away from the smoke. In the end, power couldn't save Diddy, not from the law, not from the public, and certainly not from the silence of his own blood. Once hailed as the heir to a hip-hop empire, Christian King Combs now stands at the heart of a scandal so vast, so deeply unsettling, that it threatens to consume not only his father's legacy but his own rising career. No longer just a promising artist under his father's guidance, Christian has become a symbol of something darker, a possible accomplice in a dynasty allegedly built on power, exploitation, and silence. His infamous courtroom remark, "They ain't talking about nothing in court," initially dismissed as careless bravado, became the match that lit the firestorm. In that moment, as powerful testimonies from Cassie Ventura, Dawn Richard, and Daniel Phillips revealed shocking accounts of coercion, drug-laced encounters, and emotional torment orchestrated by Diddy, Christian's cold detachment reverberated far beyond the courtroom walls. Mere hours later, Diddy collapsed from a heart attack. Whether caused by stress or by the emotional blow of his son's public betrayal, the symbolism was undeniable. The throne didn't fall from outside attack, it crumbled from within. But Christian's troubles didn't end with a viral quote. In April 2024, a civil lawsuit filed by Grace Omar, a former yacht stewardess, dragged him into deeper waters. She accused Christian of harassment and physical assault during a luxury voyage allegedly chartered by Diddy himself. The lawsuit alleges that during the trip, Christian pressured her to drink, possibly spiked with a mind-altering substance, before initiating unwanted physical contact, leaving visible bruises and emotional scars. Her affidavit included disturbing audio recordings where she repeatedly refused Christian's advances and voiced suspicions about her drink being tampered with. The implications were explosive. Christian wasn't just a bystander in his father's world, he may have mirrored it. Suddenly, the question shifted: was Christian's public detachment a defense mechanism, or a calculated rebranding to distance himself from an empire built on secrets? Critics argue his social media activity, using Diddy's Instagram to post nostalgic content amid rising allegations, was a tone-deaf PR stunt. His refusal to clarify or apologize only deepened the public's mistrust. Meanwhile, companies began severing ties, not just with Diddy, but with Christian, too. Howard University, music sponsors, and several brands walked away. As the lawsuit gained traction, the deeper rot within the Combs dynasty became harder to ignore. Christian, once the golden child molded to inherit the kingdom, now risks legal and moral ruin. Grace Omar's case, supported by therapists citing trauma symptoms consistent with assault victims in power-dominated environments, paints a grim picture. Her firing after filing an internal complaint adds another layer to the systemic silencing victims allegedly endured. Now, the final question looms large: is this the end of the Combs legacy as we know it? Or just the beginning of a reckoning long overdue? Whether Christian was trying to break free from a toxic system or simply protect his own future, his actions have triggered a collapse that no amount of fame, wealth, or curated image can reverse. As Diddy faces the courtroom alone, the son once destined to wear the crown may be remembered not for preserving the throne, but for being the one who shattered it. What began as a father's trial for alleged abuse, manipulation, and coercion has now unraveled into a generational collapse, one where the son, Christian King Combs, is no longer a bystander but a key figure entangled in the very same shadows that threatened to bury his father, Sean Diddy Combs. In a lawsuit that has rocked both legal and entertainment circles, former yacht stewardess Grace Omar accuses Christian of harassment and assault during a luxury voyage in 2022, an event she claims took place under the toxic atmosphere orchestrated by Diddy himself. The most chilling part? A verified audio transcript aired by CNN captures Omar's trembling voice saying, "Stop, I don't want this. Something feels wrong in my body. What did you give me?" Christian's legal team dismissed it as a fame-seeking stunt, but legal experts argue otherwise. The level of detail, emotional consistency, and corroborative evidence paint a picture far too disturbing to ignore. Omar further alleges she was silenced aboard the yacht, her pleas ignored by the captain, whom she suspects was paid off by Diddy to maintain secrecy. This accusation slices straight into the heart of the federal case against Diddy, that silence, control, and wealth were used systematically to suppress victims and protect an empire built not just on music, but on moral erosion. The question now haunting observers, is Diddy using those same playbooks to shield his son? The overlap between Omar's accusations and the federal testimonies, spiked drinks, coerced acts, power-fueled debauchery, suggest a terrifying pattern, not a coincidence. Christian, once groomed to inherit the throne, now finds himself on trial in the court of public opinion, if not yet in criminal court. The boy who grew up in recording studios, flanked by artists and flashing cameras, seems to have inherited not just his father's spotlight, but the silent rules of survival in a system where ethical lines blur into oblivion. Brand strategists now warn, the name Combs isn't an asset anymore. It's a liability. And that's more than a branding issue, it's a cultural reckoning. A 2023 sociological report labeled the Combs household as a power-based dysfunctional model, eerily similar to mafia-style structures, where children are taught loyalty and silence instead of morality and truth. Christian's public actions, refusing to apologize, dismissing serious allegations, using his father's Instagram for image control, mirror the tactics Diddy once deployed against accusers like Cassie Ventura and Daniel Phillips. The core of this toxic model is clear: control the narrative, discredit the victim, protect the family name at all costs. But this time, the cost is staggering. Christian isn't just suffering legal exposure, he's losing the very foundation of his identity. Endorsements have dried up. Music deals are on hold. And the public, once curious about his potential, now questions if he's simply another branch of a poisoned tree. Inside the courtroom, prosecutors emphasized that Diddy's empire didn't operate in a vacuum. It thrived because of the silent complicity of those closest to him, those who looked away, those who benefited, and those who, like Christian, inherited not just fame, but the unspoken code of protection and detachment. In the end, the tragedy isn't just legal, it's generational. If Diddy must pay with his freedom, Christian is paying with his future. And as the cracks in the Combs dynasty widen, one bitter truth becomes impossible to deny: power may buy silence, but it cannot erase the past, especially when the next generation carries its darkest secrets. The downfall of Sean Diddy Combs is no longer a personal scandal, it has erupted into a seismic event shaking the foundations of the entertainment industry. His sons, especially Christian, Justin, and Quincy, have been repeatedly named in civil lawsuits tied to wild parties, substance use, and alleged abuse. Justin is accused of involvement with underage attendees, while Christian faces a lawsuit from Grace Omar, who claims he assaulted her aboard a yacht. Experts argue this isn't isolated behavior. It reflects a toxic family model where power blurs morality and silence becomes survival. During jury selection in May 2025, a list of over 190 names stunned the public: Kanye West, Michael B. Jordan, Jay-Z, Kid Cudi, and more, all with some past connection to Diddy. Online, the so-called Diddy list exploded across social media, with rumors of secret parties and private recordings. Though much remains unverified, the context struck a nerve. When fame, influence, and silence collide, truth becomes dangerously elusive. Many on the list weren't accused of crimes, but their presence at such events raises questions. Why did so few speak up? Diddy's empire isn't collapsing from outside attacks, but from within. A system built on control, image, and complicity is finally cracking. The real question now isn't just what did Diddy do, but how many more are involved, and who's next?